When did you realize your partner was living a double life? I never thought my life would unravel because of one person. But the truth is, the night I learned who my partner really was, I stopped recognizing the world I lived in. When I first met Daniel, he felt like oxygen after drowning. I'd just come out of a 5-year relationship that ended with me, feeling like a discarded shadow. He appeared out of nowhere at a bookstore of all places, holding the same novel I was reaching for. He smiled, handed it to me, and joked that maybe fate was trying to tell us something. That smile, it was disarming, confident without arrogance, the kind of smile that made you feel chosen. We exchanged numbers, and within a week, we were inseparable. Daniel had a way of making ordinary moments feel cinematic, cooking pasta at midnight, walking through the rain without umbrellas, dancing barefoot in the living room to songs we both pretended to know the words to. He was attentive. He remembered my coffee order, the names of my coworkers, the story of how I broke my arm in 3rd grade. I told myself this was what love was supposed to feel like. Still, there were cracks I ignored. He was always careful about his phone, not just protective obsessive. If it buzzed, he'd tilt the screen away, his thumb moving fast as if swiping something out of existence. Once, while we were lying in bed, I tried to grab it to check the time. He yanked it back so quickly it felt like I'd touched fire. His excuse was thin, something about work stuff I wouldn't understand. I let it slide because he kissed me afterward, whispered that I was the only person who really mattered. But the unease stayed. The first real fracture came at my sister's engagement party. Daniel was supposed to arrive early, help me set up chairs. He texted he was running late, then later again. By the time he showed, 3 hours had passed. His hair was damp, like he'd just showered. He wore cologne so heavy, it almost choked me when he hugged me. I teased him about making such an entrance, and he laughed too loud, too forced. Halfway through dinner, his phone lit up on the table. Just one word on the screen: love. He flipped it over instantly. I laughed it off, telling myself maybe it was a nickname from a family member, some inside joke. But when I asked who it was, his whole demeanor changed. He leaned close, his voice low but sharp. Don't go through my phone, ever. That night I lay awake staring at the ceiling while his breathing beside me was calm, even, unbothered. Weeks passed and the pattern deepened. Nights where he claimed he had to work late, but came home smelling faintly of perfume that wasn't mine. Moments when he'd disappear into the bathroom for 20 minutes with his phone, then emerge acting overly affectionate, like he was trying to plaster over something invisible. I told myself paranoia ruins relationships, that my last boyfriend had cheated, and maybe I was projecting old wounds onto something new. Daniel seemed so solid, so grounded, and yet, one Saturday afternoon, when he said he was going for a run, I found myself pacing the kitchen with a knot in my chest. Something in me snapped. I grabbed my keys, drove around the neighborhood, and almost without meaning to, I spotted him. He wasn't running. He was standing outside a cafe, holding hands with a woman I'd never seen before. She leaned into him like she belonged there, her head on his shoulder. And he kissed the top of her head the way he kissed mine. Tender, familiar. My stomach turned to ice. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I sat in my car and watched them walk inside together like they'd done it 100 times. Like they had a life of their own, parallel to mine. When he came home later, sweaty and flushed as if he really had been running, he wrapped his arms around me from behind while I chopped vegetables. "Miss me?" he asked, voice warm in my ear. And I stood there, knife in hand, heart hammering so hard I thought I'd faint, wondering how long I'd been living with a stranger. But instead of confronting him, I smiled, pretended everything was fine, because a darker thought had crept into my mind while I sat outside that cafe. What if she wasn't the only one? What if this wasn't a mistake, but a pattern? What if Daniel had entire worlds I didn't know about? That night, after he fell asleep, I opened his phone while it buzzed quietly on the nightstand. I don't know if it was luck or some strange twist of fate, but his lock screen slid open with my birthday. What I saw made my blood run cold. The messages blurred before my eyes. At first I couldn't even process them, just endless threads of affection, inside jokes, photos of places I'd never been with him. Different names, different women. One contact was saved as love, another as angel, another as wifey. Each thread read like a script he'd recycled. Same compliments, same promises, same late night, thinking of you texts he sent me. But then I noticed something worse. The details. With one woman, he bragged about his new promotion at work, the same one he told me hadn't come through yet. With another, he described a business trip to Chicago, complete with hotel selfies. The problem? That same weekend he'd claimed he was visiting his mother in the hospital. And the photos, God, he wasn't even careful. Different restaurants, vacations. One of him holding hands on a beach with a brunette who looked like she'd known him for years. My fingers shook as I scrolled. Each lie unfolded into another, like pulling a thread that unraveled an entire garment. I wanted to throw the phone across the room, wake him up, scream until the walls shook. But something inside me whispered to stay quiet, to keep watching, to learn. Because I realized then I didn't know the man sleeping beside me at all. For days I carried the secret like a live grenade in my chest. Every smile he gave me felt rehearsed. Every touch made my skin crawl. And yet, I couldn't stop pretending. If I exploded too soon, I'd never get the full picture. So I played my part. When he kissed me goodbye in the mornings, I kissed back. When he texted during the day, I replied with hearts and emojis like nothing was wrong. All the while, I screenshot conversations, emailed them to myself, catalogued every lie. I even followed him once. He told me he was working late again, and I waited until his taillights disappeared before grabbing my keys. I trailed him across town to a quiet neighborhood where he parked in front of a small yellow house. A woman opened the door. She was carrying a toddler, his toddler. The little girl clapped her hands when she saw him, squealing, "Daddy." I nearly crashed my car into the curb. I sat there for almost an hour, numb, watching him carry the child inside, kiss the woman like a husband coming home. When the porch light flicked off, I finally drove away, gripping the wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. At home, I poured whiskey straight from the bottle, pacing the living room like a caged animal. He came in past midnight, smelling faintly of baby powder and wine. He smiled, kissed my cheek, told me he loved me. I stared at him, wondering if he could hear the sound of my heart breaking. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that little girl's face, heard her voice calling him daddy. The next morning, I made coffee like normal. I set his mug down in front of him, pretending my hands weren't trembling. "Rough night?" I asked. He smirked. "Yeah, work's been brutal." I wanted to laugh in his face. Instead, I kissed his temple and told him to have a good day. Inside, something shifted. Love had curdled into something darker, rage, maybe, or survival. I wasn't just betrayed. I was living in a play, and he was the director. I was determined to take back control of the script. Over the next weeks, I gathered everything. Bank statements left in his jacket pocket, receipts from dinners he never took me to, a second set of keys he thought I wouldn't notice. I even created a fake email address and messaged one of the women, posed as him, asked to meet. She replied instantly, eager, no suspicion at all. That's when it hit me. This wasn't sloppy. It was deliberate. He wasn't hiding a double life. He was maintaining multiple lives, compartmentalized with surgical precision. And I was just one piece of his puzzle. One night, he came home later than usual. His shirt was wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot. He collapsed onto the couch and muttered something about a long day. I brought him water, watched him sip, watched him close his eyes. He fell asleep instantly, exhaustion dragging him under. My phone buzzed, a number I didn't recognize. I opened the message, and my blood went cold. It wasn't meant for me. "I can't wait until you tell her and we can finally be together. Don't back out now. You promised." I looked at Daniel, snoring softly on the couch, completely unaware that his carefully constructed walls were crumbling. Someone in his hidden world was getting impatient. Someone who wanted me out of the picture. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just betrayal. It was a countdown. I stared at that message until the letters blurred. The words "tell her" clawed at me. Whoever she was, she knew about me. Knew enough to demand that he confess. For the first time, I wasn't just hurt. I was scared. The next morning I tested him. While he buttered toast, I asked casually, "So, anyone else in your life I should know about?" He froze mid-bite, then laughed like I'd told a bad joke. "What, like a secret wife and kids? You've been watching too many thrillers." His tone was light, but his eyes flickered. That split second of panic. I caught it. I smiled, pretended to buy it. But inside, alarm bells screamed. That afternoon, while he was at work, I drove to the yellow house again. The woman was outside watering flowers, her daughter playing in the yard. My stomach twisted as the girl toddled toward me, waving. "Hi," she squeaked. I smiled weakly, barely able to breathe. The woman glanced up, cautious, protective. Her eyes met mine, suspicion flashing. I drove off before she could say anything, but the image of that child burned into my skull. Back home, I opened my laptop and searched his name. Nothing unusual at first. LinkedIn, a few work articles, some old high school sports records. But then I dug deeper, scrolling through forums, cross-checking addresses. That's when I found it. Another Facebook profile, same photos of him, but different life details, different job title, relationship status listed as married. His profile picture showed him with the woman from the yellow house, their arms wrapped around each other like any normal couple. The little girl sat on his shoulders, smiling. My stomach flipped. I clicked through the photos, each one another stab to the gut. Vacations, birthday parties, a family Christmas tree, and in the comments, friends congratulating them, calling them the perfect family. Perfect. I slammed the laptop shut, my hands shaking so badly I nearly knocked over my glass of water. When Daniel came home, humming to himself, I had to grip the counter to stop myself from lunging at him. He kissed me like nothing was wrong, like he didn't have two separate worlds colliding around him. That night, as he showered, I reopened the message from the unknown number. My fingers trembled as I typed back. "Who is this?" The reply came instantly. "Don't play dumb. I'm done waiting. He said he would tell you." I swallowed hard, adrenaline roaring through me. Whoever this was, she wasn't the wife. She was someone else. Another secret. Another piece of his puzzle. "Meet me tomorrow," she typed. "Corner of 5th and Maple. 7 p.m. If you don't come, I'll come to you." My throat went dry. The next day, I pretended everything was normal. Daniel kissed me goodbye, whispered he'd be late. I told him to take his time. My heart pounded all day, waiting for evening. At 7 sharp, I stood at the corner of 5th and Maple. The air was damp with the threat of rain. A few cars rolled by, headlights cutting through the gloom. Then I saw her, tall, striking, with dark hair pulled into a severe bun. She walked toward me with the confidence of someone who wasn't afraid. She stopped just a few feet away, her eyes scanning my face like she already knew me. "You're her," she said flatly. I nodded, unable to find my voice. She pulled out her phone, scrolled, and then thrust the screen in my face. Photos. Daniel with her. Dinners, hotel rooms, nights out. Him kissing her forehead, holding her waist. "I'm his fiancée," she said, her tone like a knife. "And if you didn't know that, then you're not the only one he's lying to." Fiancée. The word hit me like a blow. "He told me he was leaving you," she continued, her voice trembling with controlled fury. "That he was finally going to tell you the truth so we could be together. But clearly that was another lie." My knees threatened to buckle. Behind my ribs something icy spread. "How long?" I whispered. 3 years. 3 years. I tried to process it. He'd been with me for almost 2. That meant overlap. That meant the entire foundation of our relationship was built on deception. She studied me, her anger softening just slightly when she saw my shock. "You didn't know, did you?" I shook my head, my throat tight. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Then you should know something else. He's not just lying about us. He's lying about everything." "What do you mean?" She glanced around, lowered her voice further. "Daniel isn't who he says he is. He's hiding things you can't imagine. Things that could ruin both of us if we're not careful." My pulse thundered in my ears. "Like what?" She leaned closer, her breath hot against my ear. "Ask him about Chicago." The way she said it calm, deliberate, sent a chill crawling down my spine. I pulled back, but before I could press her, she turned and walked away, heels clicking against the pavement until her figure disappeared into the night. I stood frozen on the corner, the city moving around me, headlights flashing, horns blaring. Chicago. I didn't know what it meant, but I knew one thing: whatever secrets Daniel had, they were bigger than just affairs. And I was already in too deep. When I got home, Daniel was on the couch, beer in hand, smiling like everything was normal. He looked up, patted the seat next to him. "Hey baby, long day?" I sat down slowly, heart pounding, and forced a smile, because now I knew. The man I loved wasn't just living a double life. He might be living more than one. And Chicago was the key. That night, I barely slept. The word Chicago gnawed at me like a parasite. Every time Daniel rolled over, wrapping an arm around me, I felt like I was lying next to a stranger whose name I didn't even know. By morning, I had a plan. He left for work at 8 a.m., kissing me on the forehead like always. The moment his car disappeared down the street, I grabbed my laptop. I typed Daniel plus Chicago into every search bar I could find. At first, nothing useful. Then, buried in old news articles, I saw it. A fire. 5 years ago, in Chicago, there had been a warehouse fire linked to insurance fraud. Several employees were injured. One man, Daniel's full name, was listed as a person of interest, but never charged. My stomach dropped. I clicked deeper. There were whispers about embezzlement, a fake identity, money disappearing, and then, nothing. No follow-up articles. Just silence. He had vanished after that. The pieces started falling into place in ways I didn't want to accept. The secret phone, the business trips, the unexplained money he always seemed to have, despite a job that shouldn't have paid half of what he flaunted. And the women, the lives. Maybe they weren't just about lust. Maybe they were part of his cover. I sat back, dizzy, the edges of my vision blurring. I thought of the fancier's warning, the way her voice had trembled when she said he's lying about everything. By the time Daniel came home that evening, I had forced myself into a mask. "Hey, how was work?" I asked, smiling as if my heart wasn't trying to claw out of my chest. He shrugged, loosened his tie. "Long. Meetings all day. You know how it is. Meetings. Always meetings." We ate dinner. He told me some bland story about a client. I nodded, laughed at the right places, but all I could hear was the roaring in my head. The warehouse fire. The fiancé. Chicago. That night, while he showered, I checked his jacket pocket. His wallet was inside. And tucked behind the credit cards, I found something that made my blood run cold. A driver's license. Not his. At least not the version I knew. The photo was Daniel. Same smile, same face. But the name was different. The address was in Chicago. I shoved it back before he came out, my hands shaking so badly I thought he'd see. The next day, I drove to the yellow house again. This time I got out of the car. The wife god, she was really his wife, opened the door before I even knocked. Her eyes narrowed. "You again?" "I just want to talk," I said quickly. My voice cracked. "Please." She hesitated, then stepped aside. The little girl was on the floor with blocks, humming to herself. The sight made my chest ache. We sat at the kitchen table. The woman crossed her arms. "What do you want?" "I need to know who he really is." She studied me for a long moment. Then she sighed, the fight draining from her face. "Join the club." Her name was Melissa. She and Daniel had been married for 6 years. She knew about some of the women, though not all. She tried to leave once, but he threatened to take their daughter and disappear. "He has connections," she whispered. "I don't even know how deep it goes. But he's not just a liar. He's dangerous." The fiancé's words echoed in my head. I leaned closer. "What does Chicago mean?" Melissa's face went pale. She looked toward her daughter, lowered her voice. "He told you about that?" "No, someone else did." Her hands trembled on the table. "Then you need to run. Now, Chicago was just the start. There are people who still want answers. People who could show up any day. And if they find out you're tied to him..." Her voice broke. She pressed her hand to her mouth, fighting tears. "What did he do?" I pressed. She shook her head violently. "I can't. If he finds out I told you, The front door opened. My heart stopped. Daniel's voice carried from the hallway, cheerful. Honey? I picked up dinner. Melissa's eyes went wide with terror. She grabbed my wrist. Go, now. I stumbled out the back door just as he entered the kitchen. I didn't look back. I ran to my car, my breath coming in ragged gasps. My hands shook so badly I could barely get the key into the ignition. Driving home, one thought looped in my head, over and over. He wasn't just cheating. He wasn't just lying. He was hiding from something. And now, I was tangled in it too. When I got home, he was already there, sitting on the couch, smiling faintly, his eyes locked on me. You were at Melissa's today, weren't you? My blood turned to ice. I forced a shaky laugh. What are you talking about? But his smile didn't falter. It widened. I think we need to have a serious conversation, he said softly. About honesty. And the way he said it made my skin crawl. My mouth went dry. He knew. Somehow, he knew. I lowered my bag onto the floor carefully, like any sudden movement might provoke him. What do you mean? I asked, forcing a light tone. Daniel leaned back on the couch, hands folded over his stomach, but his eyes. They were sharp, unblinking, predatory. Don't play with me, he said calmly. I saw your car parked near the house. A chill ran down my spine. He wasn't angry, not outwardly. That was worse. His calmness was deliberate, controlled, like a man who knew exactly how much power he held. I opened my mouth, fumbling for an excuse, but he raised his hand. Don't, I'm not stupid. He stood slowly, walked over, and brushed his fingers against my cheek in a mockery of tenderness. Curiosity is dangerous, you know. My heart thundered so loudly, I thought he could hear it. I just wanted answers, I whispered. He tilted his head. And did you get them? I didn't reply. Couldn't. He smiled, though it didn't reach his eyes. Melissa tells stories when she's upset. You can't believe everything she says. But the way his jaw tightened gave him away. That night, he didn't leave my side. He cooked dinner, poured wine, asked me questions about my day with a softness that felt suffocating. His eyes followed me everywhere. When I went to the bathroom, he lingered outside the door. When I pretended to sleep, I felt him watching me in the dark. It was clear. He didn't trust me anymore. The next morning, I woke to find his phone gone from the nightstand. He never left it out of sight again. Days bled together, every moment thick with unspoken tension. I smiled, played the role of loving girlfriend, but inside I was unraveling. I knew too much and not nearly enough. Then, late one night, my phone buzzed under the blanket. A message from an unknown number. I know what he's done. Meet me tomorrow. 10 p.m. old train station. Come alone. My hands shook. Another secret player. Another thread in this tangled web. I barely slept, heart hammering with both hope and dread. The following night, I told Daniel I wasn't feeling well, that I needed to rest. He kissed my forehead, murmured something soothing, and went to shower. That was my window. I slipped out, adrenaline burning through me, and drove to the abandoned train station on the edge of town. The place was eerie crumbling walls, graffiti, broken glass crunching underfoot. The air smelled of rust and mildew. At exactly 10, a figure stepped out from the shadows. A man tall, wearing a hood. You came, he said. His voice was low, roughened by cigarettes or years of secrets. Who are you? I demanded, though my voice trembled. Someone who's been looking for him for a long time. He pulled the hood back. His face was hard, lined, with eyes that looked like they'd seen too much. Name's Carter. Chicago PD. Or at least I used to be. My chest tightened. Chicago. He nodded grimly. Yeah, you've heard about it. What happened? He studied me for a moment, as if deciding how much to tell me. Then he sighed. 5 years ago, Daniel, though that's not even his real name, was working for a company that pulled one of the biggest insurance scams in the city. They staged a fire in a warehouse full of fake inventory, millions in payouts. But people got hurt. One died. He disappeared before we could charge him. My stomach lurched. He told me he was in finance. Carter's mouth twisted. Finance. Sure, fraud is finance, I guess. I gripped the edge of a broken bench to steady myself. And Melissa? The fiancée? She's collateral, Carter said flatly. So are you. I shook my head violently. No, he loves me. Carter's eyes softened with pity. You really believe that? He doesn't love. He manipulates. He builds lives like houses of cards, then moves on when they collapse. You're just one of them. The words sliced through me. I wanted to deny it, but deep down I knew. Carter leaned closer, listened to me carefully. He knows we're closing in. He'll get desperate. And desperate men do dangerous things. If you stay, you won't be safe. My throat closed. Why are you telling me this? Because you're his weakness, Carter said simply. And that makes you useful. But it also makes you a target. Before I could reply, the sound of tires screeched outside. Headlights cut through the broken windows. My blood turned to ice. Carter's eyes widened. He followed you. The doors slammed open. Daniel stepped inside, shadows slicing across his face, eyes blazing. Baby, he said softly, too softly. What are you doing here? Carter reached for something in his jacket. A badge? A gun? I couldn't tell. Daniel's smile vanished. Careful, Carter. You don't want to make this messy. The air was electric, my body frozen between them. Two men, two versions of the truth. One promising safety, the other promising love. And I realized I couldn't trust either of them. For a moment, no one moved. The abandoned station seemed to hold its breath, dust hanging in the air like it was watching. Daniel's eyes flicked between me and Carter. His tone was calm, but every muscle in his body was coiled tight. Why don't you go home, sweetheart? I'll handle this. Carter took a step closer, his voice low and steady. She deserves to know the truth, Daniel. Or whatever your name really is. Daniel's jaw tightened. She doesn't need to be part of this. She already is, Carter shot back. My legs felt like water. My mind was screaming at me to run, but I couldn't move. Tell me, I rasped. Tell me who you are. All of it. Daniel's gaze softened when it landed on me, but the softness was wrong too practiced. I'm the same man you've always known. The man who makes your coffee, who dances with you in the kitchen. That's real. Whatever Carter's feeding you, it's old news. Old news? Carter barked a bitter laugh. Try fraud, arson, and a body count. You think that just disappears? My chest tightened. Did someone really die in that fire? I whispered. Daniel's silence was the answer. His jaw clenched. His eyes dropped for the briefest second. Jesus, I breathed, stumbling back. Listen to me, Daniel said quickly, stepping forward. His voice dropped to a desperate murmur meant only for me. That night, it wasn't supposed to happen like that. I didn't light the match. I didn't know anyone would be inside. I was trying to get out. Carter snorted. Get out? You walked away with hundreds of thousands under a new name. That's not escape, that's profit. Daniel turned on him, fury flashing. You don't know what they would have done if I refused. You think I had a choice? Their voices clashed, bouncing off the hollow walls. I pressed my hands to my ears, but the words still sank in. Lies, half-truths, accusations. I finally screamed, stop. Both men froze. I looked at Daniel, my heart breaking all over again. Why me? Why did you drag me into this? His expression cracked for the first time. Because you made me feel like I could be someone else. Not him. Not the man Carter's chasing. Just me. Tears burned my eyes. But you lied about everything. Every single thing. Daniel stepped closer, voice trembling. Not everything. I love you. That's the only truth I've got left. Carter scoffed. Love? That's his favorite disguise. Don't fall for it. Before I could reply, Daniel's hand darted inside his jacket. My breath caught. Was he reaching for a gun? But instead, he pulled out a folded piece of paper and tossed it at my feet. Read it, he said, his voice raw. My shaking hands unfolded it. A plane ticket. One way. 2 names. His and mine. Departure in 3 days. Destination. Somewhere across the ocean. You were never supposed to know, Daniel whispered. We could have left. Started fresh. No lies, no past. Just us. Carter's voice cut through like steel. Don't you see? He was planning to disappear. And once you were out of the country, you'd never come back. He'd control everything. You'd be another ghost. The ticket fluttered in my hands. The walls spun around me. Daniel took another step forward, hands out like he was calming a frightened animal. You have to choose, baby. Me or him. A future together or a lifetime looking over your shoulder. I can protect you. I can make you safe. Safe. The word made me want to laugh and scream all at once. Carter's hand hovered near his jacket again. Don't listen. If you go with him, you'll vanish. Just like the others. Don't let him bury you. My mind raced. 2 paths stretched out in front of me, both laced with danger. One was love twisted into control. The other was truth wrapped in menace. Daniel's eyes locked on mine, pleading. Please, don't walk away. You're the only real thing I have. Carter's voice was cold, final. If you go back to him, you won't survive it. My knees buckled. The ticket slipped from my fingers, landing on the dirty floor between them. The sound of a train horn in the distance startled me. It was almost laughable, the ghost of something that no longer ran here. But then headlights cut through the broken glass again. Another car, doors slamming, heavy footsteps, voices echoing. Carter swore under his breath. Back up. Daniel's eyes narrowed. They found me. Panic surged through me as figures appeared at the far end of the station. Men in dark jackets, moving fast. Daniel grabbed my arm. Run with me. Now. Carter barked. Stay put. They'll protect you. 2 hands, 2 choices. My body frozen in the crossfire. And in that instant, I realized, no matter what I chose, life as I knew it was over. Daniel's grip on my arm was iron, his eyes blazing with desperation. Trust me, he hissed, tugging me toward the side exit. But Carter blocked our path, his voice sharp. Don't you dare take another step with him. He's running because he knows what's coming. The shadows at the far end of the station stretched longer as the men approached. Their boots crunched on the broken glass. Their radios crackled. Every instinct screamed that this was bigger than me, bigger than any love or betrayal I thought I understood. Who are they? I whispered, my throat raw. Daniel's jaw tightened. People I used to know. People who won't let me walk away. Carter's hand hovered near his jacket, ready to draw. Feds, he muttered. Been waiting for this moment for years. The agent shouted commands, voices sharp in the night. Hands where we can see them. Now! Daniel cursed under his breath, pulling me closer like a shield. Don't move, he whispered. His arm tightened around my waist. If they take me, I'm gone forever. You'll never see me again. I froze, torn between 2 versions of reality. Carter glaring at me, urging me to break free. Daniel holding me, pleading like a man with nothing left but me. Let her go. One of the agents shouted, guns trained on us. Daniel's voice broke. Tell them you're with me, please. But the look in Carter's eyes cut through the chaos. He wasn't begging. He was certain. He's going to drag you down with him if you don't let go. The agents advanced. Daniel's breathing quickened. his mask cracking. For the first time, I saw fear. Real fear. Baby, he whispered, voice shaking. You're the only one who can save me now. And just like that, I saw it. The pattern. The way he spun love into a trap. He had done it to Melissa, to the fiancé, maybe even to others I'd never know about. He didn't love me. He needed me to keep the lie alive. I looked at him, really looked, and felt the last thread snap inside me. Daniel, I said softly. Let me go. His face twisted. Pain, rage, something feral. No, you don't mean that. His grip tightened until I gasped. The agents closed in. Carter lunged. Now. I wrenched free with all the strength I had, stumbling toward Carter, just as Daniel roared and reached for his jacket. The gunshot was deafening. My scream ripped through the night. Daniel staggered back, eyes wide with shock, blood blooming across his shirt. He dropped to his knees, clutching his side. The agents swarmed, shouting commands, their flashlights slicing through the dust. Carter pulled me behind him, shielding me as Daniel collapsed onto the floor. For a moment, the world slowed. His eyes found mine, desperate, wild. He opened his mouth, but only blood came out. Then his head fell forward. The man I thought I loved, the man who had built entire worlds of lies around me, was gone. The agents secured the scene with mechanical efficiency. Radios crackled, footsteps echoed, and Carter's hand stayed firm on my shoulder, grounding me in a reality that felt unreal. One agent crouched beside Daniel's body, checking for a pulse. He looked up, shook his head. He's gone. Gone. The word hollowed me out. My knees buckled and Carter caught me, lowering me onto the broken bench. My whole body trembled as if the truth itself had poisoned me. You're safe now, Carter said, but his voice was distant, muffled. Safe? Was that what this was? Safe? Because all I could see was the man I had cooked dinner for, laughed with, kissed goodnight bleeding on the dirty floor of an abandoned train station. Melissa's warning echoed in my head. He's dangerous. The fiancé's voice haunted me. He promised he'd tell you. And Carter's certainty. You'll vanish if you stay with him. The pieces finally fit, but the puzzle formed an image I didn't want to see. Daniel had been many things: lover, liar, fugitive. And in the end, he was nothing at all. Just a ghost who left ruin in his wake. The agents questioned me for hours, their notebooks filling with every detail I could recall. I told them everything. The texts, the other women, the license, Chicago. My voice cracked, but I kept talking until my throat gave out. When they finally let me go, Carter walked me outside. The night air was cool, almost gentle compared to the storm inside me. He handed me his card. If you need protection, call me. This isn't over. Men like him leave shadows long after they're gone. I stared at the card, then at him. Do you think he ever loved me? Carter hesitated, then shook his head. He loved the mask you let him wear. Not you. Never you. The words cut, but they were true. I nodded, unable to speak. When I finally drove home, the silence was unbearable. His toothbrush was still by the sink, his shirt draped over a chair. His cologne lingered in the air. Everything in my apartment screamed of him, but he wasn't there. He never had been. I sank to the floor, buried my face in my hands, and sobbed until my body gave out. And when the sun finally rose, it felt like the light belonged to someone else's life. The days after Daniel's death blurred into one endless stretch of shadows and questions. The agents called it closure, but there was nothing closed about it. Everywhere I looked, pieces of him lingered like landmines, waiting to detonate. Neighbors whispered when they saw me, some with pity, some with suspicion. I heard one woman mutter, "She must have known something." Another said, "Men like that don't live double lives without help." I wanted to scream that I hadn't known, that I had been just as deceived as anyone, but the shame sat heavy in my chest. How had I let him fool me so completely? How had I kissed a man whose very name was a lie? Melissa called once. Her voice was ragged, stripped bare. "Our daughter keeps asking for him," she whispered. What do I tell her? I had no answer. The silence stretched until she hung up. The fiancé tried too. She sent a single text. "He promised me forever. Guess he promised you the same." I never replied. What could I say? We were two ghosts orbiting the same dead star. The agents returned often, collecting evidence. They boxed up Daniel's things. Every shirt, every paper, every trace of him. But the memories, those they couldn't erase. The way he laughed when he burned the pasta. The way he sang off-key just to make me laugh. The warmth of his hand in mine. Had those moments been real? Or just rehearsed lines in his performance? Carter checked in more than the others. Sometimes with official questions. Sometimes just to see if I was still breathing. He had a way of watching me that made me feel both exposed and strangely safe. One evening he sat across from me at my kitchen table, his badge resting between us. "He fooled a lot of people," he said gently. "Not just you." I stared at my hands. But I let him in. I let him make me believe. "That's what men like him do," Carter said. "They find the cracks and pull themselves in, until you can't tell where you end, and they begin." I swallowed hard, blinking back tears. So what am I now? Just one of his victims? Carter's eyes softened. "You're someone who survived." But survival felt hollow. Nights were the worst. I'd lie awake, hearing phantom footsteps, imagining his key in the door, his voice calling my name. Sometimes I half believed he'd walk in, alive, smiling that same disarming smile. But then I'd remember the blood, the way his body crumpled, and I'd shiver, not from grief but from relief, because if he had lived, I knew he would have pulled me deeper into his world, and maybe I wouldn't have come back. A week later, I found something the agents had missed. It was a small black notebook, hidden inside the lining of his suitcase. My hands trembled as I pulled it free. Inside names, dates, places, women's initials, sums of money, cryptic notes, and scattered among them my name. Again and again. At first, it felt like proof that I had mattered, that I had been more than a pawn. But then I read the words beside it: asset, leverage, cover. My stomach churned. I wasn't love. I was strategy. I nearly threw the notebook into the fire, but some dark instinct told me to keep it. Evidence, maybe. Or a reminder of the truth I could never forget. That night, I dreamed of him. He stood at the foot of my bed, smiling, his shirt clean, his eyes bright. "You should have come with me," he whispered. "We could have had everything." I woke gasping, clutching the sheets like they were a lifeline. Sleep never came easy after that. The following morning, Carter showed up unannounced. He looked tired, lines etched deep into his face. "We've traced some of his connections," he said. "Chicago wasn't the end. He had ties stretching further than we thought. There might be people looking for that notebook." Ice crawled through my veins. "You know about it?" His gaze locked on mine. "I know you found something. And I know it puts you at risk." I gripped the notebook, hidden under the table. "So what do I do?" "You have two choices," Carter said. "Hand it over and let us bury it. Or keep it and never stop looking over your shoulder." My breath caught. Two choices. Just like that night in the station. Both dangerous. Both life-altering. I stared at Carter, his steady eyes, the quiet patience in his voice. I thought of Daniel's desperate pleas, his promises, his lies. The contrast was almost unbearable. Slowly, I slid the notebook across the table. "Take it, I don't want it." Relief flickered across his face. He tucked it into his jacket carefully. "You did the right thing." But as I watched him leave, doubt gnawed at me. The truth was out of my hands now, swallowed into the machinery of justice or secrecy. That night, alone in the silence of my apartment, I whispered the words I hadn't dared before. I never really knew him. The walls didn't answer. The air stayed heavy. But something inside me cracked open, like the first fragile step out of a nightmare. Still, one thought haunted me as I closed my eyes. If Daniel had lived, if I had chosen differently, would I have followed him into the dark? And worse, was some part of me still tempted? Months passed, but the shadow of Daniel clung to me like smoke. I tried to return to normal work, grocery shopping, calling my sister, but every ordinary moment carried the echo of him. A stranger's laugh in a cafe could freeze my blood. A whiff of his cologne on someone else's jacket could rip me back into that train station. Therapy helped a little. The counselor called it trauma bonding, explained how abusers blur love and danger until you can't separate the two. But part of me hated that word abuser. It made everything sound clinical, like Daniel had just been a case study, not the man who kissed me goodnight. Sometimes I'd catch myself remembering his warmth, the way he looked at me like I was the only thing that mattered. And then I'd remember Melissa's tears, the fiancé's fury, Carter's warnings, the notebook, asset, leverage, cover. That was all I'd ever been. One night, I drove out to the lake, the one Daniel had once promised to take me to for a weekend getaway. We never went. He was always too busy. But now, standing on the shore, I realized he'd probably promised the same thing to Melissa, to the fiancé, to countless others. The water was calm, moonlight rippling across its surface. For the first time in months, I let myself cry not the choked sobs of fear or betrayal, but deep, guttural grief for the person I thought I'd known, for the life I thought we were building, for the version of myself who believed in him. And in the silence after, something shifted. I realized I wasn't crying for Daniel. I was crying for me. The next morning, Carter called. His voice was grave. "We closed the file," he said. "But I want you to know, some of his connections are still out there. If anything feels off, if you notice anyone watching, call me." "Do you think they'll come after me?" I asked. He hesitated. "I think you were lucky to get out when you did. Don't waste it." After that, I stopped waiting for closure that would never come. I sold the apartment Daniel had lived in, got rid of the furniture he touched, donated the clothes that still smelled of him. I packed what little I truly owned and moved across town. New neighborhood, new locks, a fresh start, as much as one could be fresh with scars carved so deep. People asked sometimes coworkers, acquaintances, even my own family, how I could have missed the signs, how I could have loved a man who wasn't real. I stopped defending myself, because the truth was, I had seen pieces. The turned phone, the late nights, the slip of panic in his eyes. I just didn't want to believe them. I wanted love so badly that I built a home out of lies and told myself it was enough. That realization was its own kind of punishment. That healing is quiet. It doesn't happen all at once. It's in the mornings I wake up and don't immediately reach for the empty side of the bed. In the laughter with my sister over coffee. In the way I can walk past a stranger without flinching. Daniel's ghost still lingers. Some nights I dream he's alive, standing at the door, asking me to run away with him. In those dreams, I always hesitate. My hand on the knob, heart pounding with both terror and temptation. But when I wake, I know the truth. He's gone. And the only person left to save is me. The last time I saw Carter, he asked me if I regretted meeting Daniel. I thought about it for a long time. About how Daniel taught me that love without honesty is just manipulation. That safety is not the same as being trapped. That sometimes survival means walking away from the person you want most. "No," I said finally. I don't regret it, because I'll never make the same mistake again. Carter nodded, his eyes steady. Good. That's all any of us can do. Now, when I think of Daniel, I don't think of the smiles or the dances or the promises. I think of the night in the train station, the moment I pulled free, the sound of my voice saying, "Let me go." That was the moment I stopped belonging to him. The moment I chose myself. And even though the scars will never vanish, even though part of me will always wonder how much of his love was real, I know this. Survival changes you, and I will never be the same.